First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Welcome to WUFT News First at 5. I'm Bailey Korinek.
And I'm Jared Teitel. Thanks for joining us. 2 apartment complexes near the University of Florida were hoping to be ready for the start of the fall semester, but they missed the mark.
Many UF students are being affected by this. WUFT's Kennedy Mason joins us live now outside one of those construction sites.
So, Kennedy, you learned just how many students must leave their hotel rooms?
Jared and Bailey, I found out after questioning management that more than 1,000 students are being affected by this. Euphoria behind me and Sweetwater apartment complexes were not completed for students to move in at the start of the school year. They're still not completed, and as you can imagine, it's posing an issue. Empty chairs, empty tables, empty shelves. This is not how Caroline Eaton pictured the start of her sophomore year at the University of Florida. In fact, she's living out of bags and cooking in a random kitchen. She's one of the 651 students who is supposed to move into the Euphoria Gainesville apartment complex August 5th. But a month and a day before her scheduled move, Euphoria sent this email. Our team has been working non-stop to prepare for your arrival. Unfortunately, at this time, due to contractor delays, we are expecting a delay for your move-in date. When Felicia Shiner opened her inbox, her mother went into mom mode.
My mom jumped to it and got a bedroom in the Holiday Inn on top of Pisanos because it's like right there on campus. It's like a great location.
She didn't enjoy living out of a hotel. Now she's depending on friends to help her out.
The annoying part is when I go to grab something from the bottom, because this thing is kind of heavy. I have toiletries, and in my car I have extra toiletries, which I didn't think that I would need to use, but I'm glad that I have them in there because I'm running out of the toiletries that I have now.
The managers of Euphoria and Sweetwater declined to speak. Euphoria offered students 2 options: take advantage of the hotel accommodations and receive $30 daily, or arrange their own accommodation and receive $600 a week. Sweetwater offered a $200 gift card or a rent credit up to $500 in addition to hotel accommodations. Neither are charging rent at this time. Still, for Gina Vinuesa, a parent of a Euphoria resident, it's a frustrating experience.
The difficulty is not so much not understanding the situation that they're in, because I certainly do understand the building delays and that kind of thing. The issue has been the lack of communication.
Shiner feels restricted.
I really can't start like a decent schedule of things that I want to do until I move in, until I actually have a place.
Eaton wants stability.
One of the things that was pulling me back to coming to UF, because it's scary even as a sophomore, was the fact that I had a stable place to live and actually settle in. But because of this, my parents weren't able to move me in anywhere.
Students and parents are all hoping to hear 4 special words soon. Ready for moving. Residents did sign their leases in the spring semester, knowing that the apartment complexes were not completed. Now, Euphoria's estimated move-in date is September 15th through 30th, and Sweetwater September 15th through 16th. Some students are getting kicked out of their hotel rooms for the big game this upcoming weekend. In Gainesville, Kennedy Mason, WUFT News.
Thank you, Kennedy. Alachua County Public Schools is making changes to bus routes to improve on-time arrivals.
And WUFT Charlize Ramos tells us that changes that are being made.
Alachua County Public Schools Public Information Officer Jackie Johnson says nationwide there is a shortage of bus drivers that has impacted students' attendance and schedules. Due to this, Alachua County Public Schools is changing its transportation system to adjust to the limited amount of drivers there are. This includes eliminating courtesy stops that pick up and drop off kids within a 2-mile radius of the school.
As you do that for a couple of families in a neighborhood, then more families hear about it and they hop onto the bus, and then one bus isn't enough, you add another bus, and that situation's really gotten out of control, and it's just something we cannot sustain anymore.
Instead of courtesy stops, the district will offer transportation for students if their walk to school meets the state's definition of hazardous walking conditions. ACPS will also switch the current system for the more than 1,600 students who attend magnet and choice programs not in their school zone.
The school district is working to determine which bus stops for schools like Gainesville High School will be impacted by the changes being made to the Alachua County Public Schools transportation system.
The school district is continuing to look for ways to improve. The noon changes take place January 8th. Charlize, Ramos, WUFT News.
Thank you, Charlize.
It's been another extremely hot day. Derrah, any chance we're going to cool down anytime soon?
Well, Bailey, we are tracking a few cooling showers, but unfortunately nothing arrived inland yet. We're seeing most of that heavy rain to the south, but we have a few light showers starting to fade away though along the St. Johns River just east of Palatka, and then we're seeing those stronger storms along that I-4 corridor in Lake Helen just south of Daytona Beach. We are seeing those clouds start to build in out east. We have a temperature of 89, but it already feels like we're in the mid 90s, and we're feeling that breeze at about 7 miles per hour right now. It's still going to feel pretty warm and humid this evening with all of that moisture in the air. We have about a 30% coverage through around 7, 8, 9 o'clock, and then we'll drop that down to a 20% coverage. So there is the chance we can see a few scattered showers, and I'll time that hour by hour for you in just a few minutes.
Just released information from the medical examiner's office details an Alachua County likely cause of death is connected to the effects of Hurricane Idalia. Officials say the 59-year-old was driving his car on Wednesday, August 30th, when he struck a tree. The man was pronounced dead at the scene and it was ruled an accident. The death is one of 4 across the state. The other 3 happened in Brevard, Dixie, and Pasco County.
Governor Ron DeSantis and other top state officials are urging a federal judge to toss out a constitutional challenge to a new law aimed at overhauling Gainesville regional utilities. Attorney General Ashley Moody and Secretary of State Cord Byrd filed motions on Monday seeking dismissal of the lawsuit by the nonprofit group Gainesville Residents United. The state's motion says it, quote, prohibits the consideration of social, political, or ideological interests. Attorneys for the plaintiffs say members of the public in the past have petitioned the city commission on rates and other issues. The lawsuit says the law now eliminates the plaintiff's right to petition to the board. The law emerged this spring after Republican lawmakers questioned the transfer of money from municipal utilities to bolster city budgets. Alachua County is inviting residents to join their brand new Equity and Advisory Council. The EAC is looking for members who feel strongly about all kinds of issues like racial and gender equality, environmental justice, historical communities, and more. The new board would work together with organizations all over the county to achieve equity in the community. The EAC hopes to establish things like an animal work program and equity and action plans. People who are interested and have experience in systems like education or housing are invited to apply. The terms range between 1 to 3 years, and there are 8 spots. Applications for the position are open now and close on October 16th. Coming up on WUFT News, a garage in Jacksonville partially collapsed.
What officials are saying about the situation, plus the search for an escaped inmate is now over. How investigators say they caught the convicted murderer again. Coming up when WUFT News First at 5 returns.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Fire officials are now working to determine what caused a deck to partially collapse outside of Jacksonville Hospital Tuesday. First responders say it's a miracle no one was hurt. Around noon Tuesday, part of the 3rd level of the parking deck fell outside the emergency of the St. Vincent's Hospital. Fire officials say more than 100 cars were impacted by the collapse.
Florida has temporarily suspended a highly controversial statewide survey required under state law. It compels public colleges and universities to ask students and faculty to identify political bias in college classrooms. Fresh Take Florida's Sandra McDonald reported on this story. Sandra, what did you learn?
Thanks, Jared. The survey, first mandated by Governor Ron DeSantis and Florida lawmakers in 2021, required the Department of Education to send an optional survey to nearly 2 million students and staff across the state. A law passed last year pushed back the annual deadline for reporting results from September to December, starting in 2024. But the new law did not explicitly allow agencies to skip a year, and the new deadlines do not apply until next year. In an email today, the Department of Education says their interpretation of the new law was that the survey was not required again until 2024. The survey, they say, was not suspended, but the timeline was adjusted. But the representative who sponsored both bills says he was not aware the survey would not be conducted this year. The survey was challenged in federal court on constitutional grounds, but a judge dismissed the lawsuit. Faculty are still concerned that the survey in any form could have a chilling effect or subjective fear of punishment if students or faculty held beliefs unpopular with the governor. You can find my full investigation and other Fresh Take Florida stories at WUFT.org. For Sandra McDonald, Fresh Take Florida, back to you guys.
A 14-day search for an escaped convict is now over.
Pennsylvania State Police say thermal technology and a tactical dog led to the capture of escaped prisoner Danilo Cavalcante. The search for the 34-year-old convicted murderer came to an end around 8 a.m. Authorities say a DEA aircraft detected a heat signal within the search area and tactical teams moved into the wooded area. Ultimately, it was a U.S. Border Patrol tactical unit dog that subdued Cavalcante. No law enforcement or members of the public were injured. Authorities say the victim's family can now rest easy.
One of the first calls we made upon learning about this capture was to the Brandow family, who, as you can imagine, had been living in a complete nightmare. They are so grateful to the men and women who helped with this capture. They can now finally sleep again.
Authorities say Cavalcante will later be taken to a state correctional institution to serve out his life sentence. We're out of that summer period, but temperatures are still above average.
Yeah, I am ready for a change. Derrah, is it going to be cooling down anytime soon?
Well, good news. We have an approaching cold front, which is going to cause temperatures to fall closer to average, and we'll talk more about that rain that's associated with that front, as well as an update on the tropics, all straight ahead.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
We're tracking a couple of showers, mainly along the East Coast. We had a few showers earlier move through Cross City, now starting to fade away. And then we're seeing some heavy rain starting to push further back towards Palatka along that St. Johns River. But the heaviest of those showers and storms are along that I-4 corridor just south of Daytona Beach. We had a severe thunderstorm report for them earlier today. Over on the campus cam, you can see those clouds are starting to lessen up out to the west. It's 89 degrees, but it feels like 95 degrees, so it's going to be a pretty warm and humid evening, especially with all of that moisture in the air as those showers and storms begin to fade. Let me show you how long these storms are going to last. This is 6 o'clock, and you can see mainly the storms stay out to the east. There is a chance we could see a scattered shower here in Gainesville if that East Coast sea breeze does push those storms further inland. This is 7 o'clock, but otherwise we're looking at mostly dry conditions overnight tonight. So if you have any outdoor plans, you have the green light. We will be waking up to temperatures in the 70s tomorrow, low to mid 70s, and there is the chance that you could run into some patchy fog on your morning commute. The dense fog will mainly be to the northwest, so you'll see about 4 miles ahead of you in Gainesville and down to Ocala, and then a little bit less, about 3.8 miles ahead of you over in High Springs. Tomorrow we'll have a high of 90 degrees, and then the afternoon and evening hours are when those rain chances are really going to pick up ahead of that cold front that we'll have passing. But first, let's talk about the tropics. So we have this new wave that'll likely become a depression as we head into next week. But Lee, that's the big one that we're talking about right now. It's a Category 2 hurricane right now, but it isn't expected to make any landfall here in Florida. Thankfully, we'll just see it stretch up into the northeast and then parts of Canada. But we are expecting to see some pretty high wave heights, 4 to 6 inches, and there is a high rip current risk at all of our local beaches through Saturday, so keep that in mind if you have any beach plans this weekend. Margot is a Category 1, but it'll just stall out in the Atlantic, so we're also not expecting any impacts with that storm as well. So we have a cold front sweeping through the state, which will up our rain chances over the next couple of days. But the good news is we'll see that low pressure system hang out, and that'll kind of drop our temperatures as well too. So we'll go from the 90s tomorrow, and then we'll start dropping into the mid and even upper 80s. Good news is low rain chances for game day, and then high rain chances as we head into next week.
Gator football gets ready for SEC play to begin. Also, Gators volleyball prepares for their toughest test yet.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Welcome to sports. I'm Cristina, Santiago. Gators volleyball had an intense Sunshine State showdown last night against the FSU Seminoles. It was a back-and-forth battle, and Florida fought really hard in the 5th set to take home a victory. The key players of the game included Kennedy Martin and AC Fitzpatrick, who combined for 47 kills, and setter Alexis Stuckey, who had 50 assists. The Gators continue their undefeated record as they are now 8-0. Up next, the number 3 Gators will face the number 1 Wisconsin Badgers, who are also on an undefeated streak. Florida has participated in 6 top 3 matches in program history, going 3-3. However, the last top 3 match Florida had was on December 20th, 2003. This is the first top 3 matchup at home since 1997, and it was their last meeting against Wisconsin last season. Florida came away with a win after 5 sets. The Gators will look to remain unbeaten this Sunday. First serve is scheduled for 3 p.m. Gator football opens up SEC play this weekend as they welcome the Tennessee Volunteers into the Swamp. After losing to Tennessee in a close game last year, 38-33, Florida is looking for revenge, and quarterback Graham Mertz is looking forward to this upcoming challenge.
For me, I think I just grew up with the appreciation of college football and rivalries, and I mean, everybody enjoys watching the games that are the rivalry games that have a lot of history. So for me, I've never really had like that one rival my whole life, but I've had an appreciation for these games, and it's definitely, you grow up wanting to play in these games, and so I'm definitely excited for it.
Florida and Tennessee will write another chapter to the storied history of this iconic rivalry this Saturday night.
Finally tonight, an Ocala police officer is back at home after being hurt in a deadly hit-and-run accident late last month.
Sergeant Ron Malone spent 17 days in the hospital. He was met with applause as he was wheeled out of the hospital Tuesday. Back in late August, Malone responded to a deadly hit-and-run crash when police say the car involved crashed into him head-on, going more than 90 miles an hour. He spent several days in intensive care. The police department says Malone has a long journey ahead, but he has the strength to make a full recovery.
Derrah, are we still tracking any storms for this evening?
We have a couple of storms still lingering around on the radar, but they're starting to fade away, and you can see those storms starting to arrive with that cold front that we're expecting tomorrow. But tonight will be mostly cloudy and humid. We'll start fading away those rain chances as we head into those overnight hours.
Thanks, Derrah. BBC World News is next, and the PBS NewsHour is coming up at 7.
But your Florida news is always on at WUFT.org. Have a good night.